Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Andrew Piland here with Touchplan, here to talk to you about how combining technology can help you lead a job site. We've got a great webinar set up for you. We've got Jeff Flores with OpenSpace, our partner. We have Corrie Neuens and Sarah Tenpas with Boldt to tell us a little bit how they've used Touchplan and OpenSpace together to lead a job site. Before we get started, I want to be sure everyone signs up for the Saturday shift. It's our weekly newsletter. We've curated some great construction news content for you. So if you're sitting on the job on Saturday morning, things are a little bit slow, pop it open, take a look. Next, check out our Voices of Construction podcast by our very own Noah Baker, recently rated in the top 10 construction podcasts by Construction Dive. You get some really great content, some really great guests on there. We'd love for y'all to come check that out. Lastly, come meet us at LCI. We'll be at booth number 227 in Phoenix in person. Happy to tell you all not just about Touchplan, but talk about Lean, Last Planner, things that we've learned throughout the last year working with our great customers. And also, too, we'll talk to you a bit more about this Touchplan OpenSpace partnership and other people that we're partnering with to help bring you the best tools possible to make your job sites run smoothly. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I'll introduce myself really quickly. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrew Piland, a former superintendent. Previous life, I spent some time in the military, spent some time in oil field as an engineer, but I got really passionate about planning and communication and how people and project teams can work better together with technologies like Touchplan. I've been telling the story here at Touchplan for about a year. Next, Sarah, go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Tenpas. I am a superintendent at the Boldt Company. Been in that position for about 3 years. Before that, assistant superintendent, and first started off with the company as a production engineer about seven years ago at a $1.2 billion ILPD project, a hospital in downtown San Francisco. So my mission as I transition from production engineering to being the superintendent is really focused on Last Planner, being able to plan in the field reliably, and have been loving being able to practice Lean with Boldt. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Corrie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Corrie Neuens. I'm a senior PM for the Boldt Company. I've been with Boldt for about 5.5 years. I have about 21 years in both the heavy highway industry and building construction, and my hometown is Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go Pack.
Thanks, Corrie. Jeff, on to you.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Flores, Senior Solution Manager at OpenSpace. Before joining OpenSpace, I actually worked in the construction industry for about 8 years. On the project management side, and now working for OpenSpace, I work under our partnerships team with a focus on joint solutions and integrations, basically just trying to figure out the best way for OpenSpace to work with other programs such as Touchplan.
Fantastic. Jeff, tell us a little more about OpenSpace.
Yeah, so OpenSpace, who are we? We are on a mission to bring new levels of transparency to construction. We combine simple, off-the-shelf 360 cameras, computer vision, and AI technology to make it super easy to capture the job site, share it via the cloud, and then track progress remotely. So we are co-funded by creators of 3DR and Bluefin Labs. We are backed by $88 million in funding, and we're growing fast. We have more than 4 billion square feet of job site captured to this date and counting. And what we deliver is basically a complete record of your job site. And we provide this for both indoor and outdoor. We have some unique value props. We're the fastest, easiest, hands-free, and we have a tiered pricing model. So how does it work? All you need is a 360 camera and a smartphone to do your capture. Once you're done with your capture, the OpenSpace Vision engine will take over and it'll do all the processing. And then what you get as your deliverable is a Google Street View style of your job site. So here's just a quick visual of how it works. You basically go to your job site, you put the camera on your hard hat, you open the app, you tell the app where you are located one time, you hit start, and then you just start walking, and then OpenSpace does the rest. So, and then this is the deliverable that you get. This is the viewer, again, Google Street View style. There are 3 ways to navigate around. If you look at the donut, you could use the donut or the waypoints. The second would be the timeline at the bottom. OpenSpace does take an image every half a second, so you could use this timeline to really click frame by frame if you wanted to. And then the third would be at the upper right corner. If you'll blow that up, you could actually use this mini map to basically choose any location on your walk path. There it is. There's the mini map blown up. And then again, anywhere on this walk path, you can just select the point and then it'll take you right to that location. Cool. And then this is a feature that we have for doing side-by-side comparisons. If you look at the bottom, you can see that on the bottom left, the date is January 31st. And then on the right, you have April 16. So again, you can compare what was there and what wasn't, see what was there today, yesterday, weeks ago, or even years ago. And the last feature that I'll talk about is our BIM compare feature. This is where you can compare your reality capture against your BIM model. For example, if you look at the right side, where that highlighted duct is, you can see that's not yet installed. So this is a great tool for coordination and being able to figure out, again, what you're going to be planning for and how to get to that point. That pretty much rounds out our core product. We also do have automated progress tracking, as well as we'll be soon offering 3D scanning. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, now for those of you not totally familiar with Touchplan, I know some of you might have been long-term Touchplan users, but for those of you who are not familiar with what it is we do, we help you build faster, better together. So we take, on this next slide here, we take your master schedule and help you turn that into something you can actually use and execute in the field. So we don't compete with P6, we don't compete with MS Project, whatever you're using for your CPM schedule, we nest underneath that to give your field teams and your project management staff a powerful tool by which to collaborate and plan in the field in real time and collect data from that. So, you know, some technologies were built from processes and some technologies drive processes. Touchplan was built around a process. We were built around last planner. So you know, our genesis, where we started with teams planning on walls, using sticky notes, quickly realized that that may not be the most effective way to do it. You know, there's got to be a better way. We're putting a lot of data out there. We're building these plans, and we want to bring that into a digital environment. And that's exactly what we do. So we start at phase planning, at your long, to really getting some detail into your WBS and helping you build look aheads, your make ready plan, do your weekly commitments, check in on those on a daily basis, and then also learn from your mistakes by having reports and insights based off the data you're collecting as you go about your normal job on a daily basis. So how does it work? What does it look like? So you see there on the left, I've got a laptop and a browser. We are a cloud-based, web-based application. Anyone can work in Touchplan and collaborate in real time. So if you look there on the right-hand side, it looks like a group of superintendents, of job site leaders working around a plan collaboratively in real time. And what we do there is we're not on a wall, moving sticky notes around, and no one can actually really understand what those sticky notes say unless they get right up to it. Everyone has their laptop open with Touchplan there, and they're all working in the same product simultaneously. So we're creating a single source of truth around which the entire team can collaborate. Next, so how do we do that? A bit more of the nitty gritty behind that. So I talked about that look ahead planning and that make ready planning. So if you look over there on at this image on the right hand side, I have what looks like normal sticky notes, and that's how we start. So you'll actually go up in Touchplan and you'll start building out a sequence of your job with these sticky notes. And as you go through and you want to turn that sequence into a look ahead schedule, you drag that active line across your sticky notes to build something what you see there on the left hand side, which looks like Gantt bars. And those Gantt bars are actual activities that are input by trades, by yourself, whoever, across the project team to give us a really in-depth collaborative production design. So next, how do we check in on that, and how do we tell the story of the job site? So now that we have these Gantt bars here on our project, you can see those little red pins over top, and what those mean is that's an activity that we've actually promised in, and that's something that we've committed to doing. Now, all of those red pins up there means that those activities did not happen on time. And we help you track that and tell the story of why things are missing. So for example, if you have an activity that's missing because of design or engineering, that you can't go install something because you don't have the right information from the engineer or the architect, you move that activity out and you give it a reason for variance, and then you take notes on it. So for one activity, if you missed it because you didn't have the right information, you go through that process. And if you go through that process over and over on your daily basis, you'll be able to pull a report from that. You're capturing data. You're not just taking pictures of things and texting them to people or sending emails that are disjointed in their own little communication silos. You have it all right here. So you can print off a report, send it to whoever needs to know that information, and have a data-driven conversation to help improve your job site. So how did Touchplan and OpenSpace, how do we see each other working together, right? So we're all, both are big on collaboration, both Touchplan and OpenSpace, creating visibility across the entire job and across the entire project team of what needs to be happening and what has happened. And our solution that we came up with Boldt was, hey, let's use them side by side in a planning meeting. Let's put Touchplan on one side of the screen. Let's put OpenSpace on the other side of the screen, and let's use this to have some really concise, data-driven conversation and communication that people can understand and walk away from a meeting with a solid understanding of what it is they're supposed to be doing. So I think for a lot of us out there, we can have a great pull plan meeting where people leave with a great feeling about what's going on. And I specifically remember times as a superintendent walking out to the field maybe an hour after a pull plan meeting, and no one is where we talked about. In my sense, as I went through that, as I understood that people might have been nodding yes, like they understood to kind of keep things going, but they didn't totally understand what exactly it was we were asking for. And so adding OpenSpace with Touchplan gives us the opportunity to say, hey, look, we're talking specifically about a particular scope, and here's where it is, here's what it looks like out on the job. So this example you see in front of you, there's a lot of ductwork activities. So if I'm talking about ductwork with someone, say I've got a trade superintendent with me, and we're talking about installs and looking at our weekly work plan, I can say, hey, in this area, we need to be hanging branch lines. And then he can say, go over to OpenSpace and pull that up and show me, yeah, I see you. I've got my branch lines there. We're ready to rock and roll. You see them in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So we're both having concise communication, building trust, building that collaborative synergy that really helps keep us moving together. And we saw a lot of that with Boldt. So, without further ado, I will go ahead and turn this open to questioning. So, Corrie, this first question is for you. What brought OpenSpace, Touchplan, and Boldt together?
So the Boldt Company has been using both Touchplan and OpenSpace across the country for the last few years, but we've never really paired them up together as a package. We've been using Touchplan from the beginning on our project, which really paid off when COVID hit and we all had to go and work remotely, but also understood that the project wasn't going to stop. OpenSpace kind of came along earlier this year when we started getting into the interiors, and it really helped those that were off site feel like they were part of the team. They could still see what was going on, see the progress. And having that live progress really helped verify the plan and Touchplan and helped improve the communication of the team overall.
Yeah, perfect. Next question is for both Sarah and Corrie. How do you use Touchplan and OpenSpace? Can you give us a little bit of your day-to-day use, maybe your weekly use for your weekly work plan?
Yeah, I'll start this. I would say on a weekly basis, this is where I see some of the most value from both platforms, is having it during the weekly planning meeting, like Andrew was showing side by side. When we're going through the commitments meeting, we have our engineer not only going through Touchplan, showing the commitments, they're also showing the areas that we're talking about. And what it really leads to is richness in discussion, and also what we're able to do is look ahead, because that's where I see the biggest value for OpenSpace, or how we use it with Touchplan. So we're able to have it side by side, have that view, and also engage all of our users who aren't there, like Corrie said, our owners, our PMs, our engineers who aren't always on site, especially with COVID, that we're still seeing the impacts on our project for not having everybody in one place. And then on a day-to-day, we'll use this in our foreman's meeting as well when we do have our sit-downs, just going over the general issues on the project. Sometimes we'll pull up areas in open space, especially if we're looking at touch plan, just as the foremans and superintendents to check in on the look ahead. We'll pull them up side by side, or sometimes we'll just pull up open space primarily just to look at material. That's one of the biggest challenges that we have, is just seeing, okay, how much material is in the area, who has to move what.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, this person's in my way conversation that we know all too well. It's Sarah. So yeah, next question for you. Why do we need to couple visualization with collaborative planning? I think you answered that a little bit, from the sense that we can get a real-time view of what's going on, and we can actually talk about and deconflict in real time. But what else do you see there? What other value do you think that adds?
Well, it engages everybody. So we were a really fun guinea pig for being able to have Touchplan and OpenSpace side by side, specific, and we were really challenged to improve our commitments meeting, our weekly commitments meeting that we have. And what I saw was really just the richness of discussion improved by being able to have both of them side by side. Of course, that's not everything. It takes the facilitators, it takes the people who are making the commitments to also be looking at the plan and knowing their areas. But just to be able to engage and have I think more eyes on the plan and be able to see side by side, okay, we're talking about ductwork coming in. Okay, well, next week framing is starting. Is that area actually ready for framing? Are we ready to start, or is there still ductwork on the ground that has to be hung up? So when we did start coupling them side by side, we did have a lot of growth. We had some issues with the meeting almost taking longer, but we had an increase in richness of discussion. And we found that we were able to pull back the time and be able to make it more concise by flying through and pinpointing the areas that were in question. I remember one instance in a meeting when we were actually, two people were talking about two different areas, but they had a similar problem. And so we had to navigate to the actual location in open space in order to actually define, oh, this is the wall that we're talking about in question, whereas an individual thought it was a different wall. But they were talking about it was such a similar issue with having pipe interference that we didn't realize it until we had that photo, had that location, and they were able to say, oh, that's the location. Okay, let's talk after.
Yeah, they're almost talking past each other.
Exactly, and that happens all the time, especially when we have more people. There tends to be the pressure in a meeting to go fast and just say yeah. But how do we pause and actually make sure people understand where we are and give them the want to talk, speak up? And I think having, especially for field staff, having the visual of the field there alongside the schedule helps them be able to speak up for their space, own it, instead of just saying yeah, because the field doesn't always grow up with the schedule. Schedule tends to be taught in school, but not with the field every day. So having the foreman coach up and learn and be able to see their spaces adds a tremendous value in these planning meetings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So I got a couple of questions here. We could probably start with Corrie, and then Sarah, if you'd like to add on. Corrie, what is your recommended frequency for capturing so that you can always basically have up-to-date 360 images for your job?
Sure. We like to walk the site at least 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we split that task up between 3 different people so that if somebody, gets busy, we can, we've cross-trained and somebody else can hop in and be a buddy. And the owner also has recently joined us in walking. So they're walking on Tuesday, Thursday, which means we're getting 5 days a week of data, which is probably more than we need, but more data is not always bad to have. So.
And I just want to emphasize what Corrie set up when we started using OpenSpace was the rigor to maintain the system, because OpenSpace, just like Touchplan, it takes a lot of energy, or it just takes a lot of structure to be able to use it well. So how Corrie has it set up with doing it at least 3 times a week adds so much value to our planning meetings when we're able to pull up an area and know that it was within the past 2 days. And that was set up by her with the team to make sure that, hey, are we doing it? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges in Last Planner is just making sure we have the rigor to sustain that system. And I really appreciate that 3 days a week at minimum 2. And then eventually, I do want to track back because Corrie uses Touchplan and OpenSpace on a daily basis in a much different way than I do on the project management side as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. One of my favorite features as a PM is to be able to verify and measure an opening in a wall, just to make sure that any upcoming work that's shown in Touchplan can be installed successfully the first time. Just the other day, I verified a space for a fire extinguisher cabinet was both ready and was also the right size using OpenSpace's BIM option and measuring tool. And the time saved by having that feature was easily 45 minutes from having to like get up from my desk, put my PPE on, walk to the site, walk up to the floor, take the measure, and then walk the way back. It really paid off.
Awesome. This next question, let's see, could also be for both Sarah and Corrie. Do you have recommendations for contractors looking to implement new software like Touchplan and OpenSpace? Like, how do you guys do it, or how would you do it differently? Any recommendations at all?
Sure, I'll take this one first, Sarah, if you want to hop in. You know, one of the biggest obstacles when implementing new software to anyone, and especially field staff, is barrier to entry. Some software is too hard to train those that may not really be tech savvy, and they reject it right from the start. What I found with both Touchplan and OpenSpace is that they're incredibly user-friendly, and the support staff is very quick to respond to any issue that arises, which with any software company, there's a lot of value in that. I think setting expectations from the start and having proper training up front is going to help the project in the long run. You want your last planners making the commitments themselves and not have some super user, sitting in the corner, updating everything in the background as the last planners are talking. There's something that's lost in that commitment when that happens. And one thing that I might do differently next time is tie the P6 master schedule in from the very beginning, and also perform pull plans in the dedicated space that kind of Touchplan has set up. We did it a little bit differently, but I think in the future I would do that.
Great. Sarah, you have anything to add on?
Yeah, agreed. Yes, very similar to Corrie for the setup. I think one of the big benefits that we saw from OpenSpace and Touchplan together was being able to have check-ins. So as a superintendent, I always struggle to check in with myself and see how can we improve, because there's always fires that we're taking care of, that we're trying to manage. It's hard to step back and just reflect on, okay, what happened during these commitments meetings? How can we improve? And I saw that with Touchplan and OpenSpace, they have the resources like yourselves, Jeff and Andrew. We would have just like quick little check-ins and say, okay, what went well? How can we improve for next time? And that's a big recommendation, is just check in with the managers of the software and see, okay, what went well? What were some of the issues? Because some of the issues that we found was either like when we started together and they sat in on one, I had the issue that I was running the screen. I was also facilitating, also taking notes, and just having a check-in with a few people on my team, and then also Touchplan and OpenSpace. They were able to say, look, this is going all right, but there's no room for actual improvement because you're just managing everything. So we were able to create resources on our team to be able to have somebody managing the screen, being able to improve, and then actually having the superintendents facilitate and not just be managing the screen and taking notes. So I could drive the conversations and pull in the right people, and that was a big improvement. So having the check-ins with Touchplan or with the management on your team is incredibly important. So as you use these tools, check in and confirm, does it add value? We had a couple, our purpose of using Touchplan was to make sure our trade partners were using the plan and that they were involved. So one of our continuous questions are they involved, and are we having the reliable commitments we need to drive the schedule? And having those questions help drive improvements. So don't be afraid to ask for help, to pull in Touchplan or pull in your users, or pull in the people who are your support network, and demand that they're part of the conversations to improve your platform and how you're learning through Last Planner and lean construction.
Nice, wow. Okay, so now let's talk about the future state. Since, you know, both OpenSpace and Touchplan, we're gonna always continue to develop our product and improve, and also find ways for us to work together as well. So, and again, this could be a question for the both of you. How would you like to see Touchplan and OpenSpace integrate from here?
Well, I'll just start off by saying I'm super excited that you guys are working together to improve and are taking, you know, everything that we put up there for improvements and really trying to make it a reality, because I think it's going to help the industry a lot. The most useful future options would be for me to link the overall plan sheets for each floor area to the swim lanes in Touchplan. And this would really allow the end user to virtually place a sticky daily in the area that they're going to be working, and that could hyperlink to the image in that area for the same day. That option alone would boost the field staff's participation immediately. And, you know, because everybody loves a goal, if we gave our field crews weekly goals that were visual on a plan and tied that to a schedule, everyone wins in the end. So taking that even a step further, if we could tie those completion rates to the billing on a weekly basis, you just saved your PM hours and review time to verify payment for what's been installed to date.
Awesome. Sarah?
I know, Andrew, you had a slide showing like Touchplan and OpenSpace side by side. I don't know if you can pull that up, but I would like to see the OpenSpace ClearSite, or like OpenSpace production rates. I understand OpenSpace can automatically track, or part of your platform is tracking production rates. Similar to what Corrie said, if that could be automatically populated onto the ticket. So if framing was 50% of the way in from the camera walks, that would be great to see on a ticket. And even if there is like some flux, if the framer thinks, oh, I'm only 25% of the way there, or I'm actually 75% done, it just spurs conversation. I mean, like, why? Why do you think you're halfway through when you only have 2 walls up? And then also just with the platform, I know one of the requests that we have is having it nested, is having a open space able to be seen in Touchplan, because it is a pain in the butt for our engineers or for our facilitators to be having the screen side by side. Or not a pain in the butt, it's easy, but it could be a good improvement. And if you click on a ticket, you could click on a hyperlink, and it could be similar to the master schedule, just a pop-up of showing, okay, where is this area? That'd be fun. And then I think there's also a really good opportunity for daily reporting. All the tasks are here in Touchplan. People are doing walks sometimes on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to be having a daily reporting. I know, Andrew, you brought that up once. And be able to list activities, but also have that paired somehow with OpenSpace to select photos, because that's also one of the biggest struggles is uploading the photos, just all those small little maintenance tasks to create that daily report.
Awesome, thank you. I'll pass it back to Andrew. I think you're on mute, Andrew.
I am on mute. I'm back. So as the questions roll in from the audience here, I've got one from Thon Mahes. Are you planning to integrate with a 4D engine such as Synchro? I assume that's directed at both of us. Jeff, if you want to maybe talk about how you integrate with BIM really quickly.
Yeah, so right now we just have our BIM compare feature. In terms of integrating with another BIM tool, we would need to first, evaluate what is important to our customers. But if it is something that we're seeing that customers want, more and more of, then yeah, we would go ahead and consider and make that happen. So if you would be willing to talk and let me know like why you think we should, then I'd be willing to have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And from the Touchplan side, I'm certainly interested in that, right? Where, typical 4D schedule is informed by an import, and specifically Synchro, where you import a P6 into Synchro and then you actually do a 4D BIM model. Being able to add much more detail to that and status through visually in BIM model, I think could be incredibly powerful. Right now where we sit, we don't do that. But that's certainly something that I see a lot of value in, and I think a lot of people agree with me. So yeah, thanks for that question. Next, do the panelists from Carolyn, do the panelists believe that using software like Touchplan and OpenSpace impact profitability? How do you measure it in days, dollars, or otherwise? Jeff, go ahead.
So one of the ways that we're tracking progress right now is with our automated progress tracking. So this way you could tell, how much quantity was installed for a certain area. And in this way you could figure out basically, all right, if you're planning or scheduling this work here, and you're thinking that's going to take this amount of time, which again translates to dollars, you could figure out if you're actually hitting that goal or not. So that'd be the way we're tracking that. So I do believe, yeah, sorry, and just to add on, I do believe, it does increase profitability, because if you can track things this way, then you could really plan to make sure that you're coming in under budget.
Perfect. And from Touchplan's perspective, think about your job right now in the project that you're currently working on. If you can shave an hour a day in time saved by people coming in, building around a collaborative platform where, let's say my drywall, my framing drywall superintendent is telling, the overhead ductwork superintendent, hey, the schedule, the plan right now is for us to have a finish to start relationship. Just give me a day to get ahead and you can get in there and start, right? What did I just do? Like I just compressed that schedule a little bit with buy-in from the trade. So imagine if I can save an hour a day, 2 hours a day throughout the duration of your job by unlocking the power of collaboration with the project teams. I'll let you quantify that and what that means hourly. But I would really think about how much time per week can we save by collaboratively building these work plans. Great question. Next one's from Max. Are you using custom fields?
Sorry, Andrew, if we could just go back real quick. I know that that question is for the panelists. Corrie and Sarah, do you guys have anything to add to that?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, repeat the question one more time. It's at the top of mind.
So do you believe that there's profit impacts, or is this creating budget for you using both Touchplan and OpenSpace together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to me, the nicest thing is the transparency, right? Like, you immediately can see where you're at in relation to your master schedule, and if you need to pivot and replan, you can do that sooner. So to me, in the long run, that absolutely helps.
And I'll add that it adds value because we use the tools and we enforce using the tools on the project. Touchplan did not solve all of our problems or like magically create us into last planners. Neither did OpenSpace for magically solving all of our production rates. They're fantastic tools, but it's because we had project teams that we've coached into being last planners, and our structure, no matter whether we're using these tools or not, is doing day-to-day check-ins, because we do see that adds value for the bottom line by managing it and checking in with all of our trade partners on a day-to-day basis. And we found that these tools, Touchplan and OpenSpace, maximized our ability to do so, especially with times where we don't have everybody on site. And we found that using Touchplan also helps us pull in the engineers when they aren't always on site, or pull in people who wouldn't have been there otherwise into these collaborative efforts. So it does help maintain our schedule. It helps improve our constraints. But again, that's because we enforce it.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, next question from Max. Are you using custom fields in a Touchplan ticket to save the web link directly to the photo location within OpenSpace? Jeff, you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I think this is something that we tried in our pilot with Boldt. We saw that it could be useful, but at the same time, we ended up learning actually that it was a lot faster to have the side-by-side setup. What I think could improve this is if you did have, well, I guess one of the reasons that it took a little bit longer and the side-by-side setup was preferred was because there was no actual active hyperlink. So maybe in the future, you know, if there is the active hyperlink that's there, then it would be a lot easier for someone in the field or during these meetings to be able to click into that hyperlink and then take you to that location. So I do see value there. I guess it just has to work so that it's pretty seamless for the user.
And Jeff, to add on, we did find that the hyperlink worked well in the custom field setup when it was for a constraint. So it was like a one-off area or a go back space. Using that custom field setup was really good, because if you weren't in the middle of a meeting, you could pull it up or you could find it very easily. During a meeting setup, it was just more cumbersome for the engineer to click on the link, copy paste. But for those constraints and like one-off go backs where it's not always clear where that area is, or it's hard to just put it in the description, that was perfect.
Awesome.
And also too for milestones, you know, you don't necessarily need to, wouldn't copy and paste or add a OpenSpace link to every individual ticket. But if you're talking about an inner milestone where you have a key critical handoff, an area that you absolutely have to talk about and show everyone to talk about that effectively, you know, in addition to those constraints, Sarah, having those on a key handoff milestone is huge.
Completely agree. Yes, and that worked, we found, was like the best strategy for the big areas, for the big milestones, and even our smaller ones too. And that makes it easier, not just to use it during your weekly planning meetings, but to also, if you're in the middle of a meeting and you're talking about like an area, you can pull it up and then just go either to the milestone, the constraint in question, because that's usually where we spend all of our time talking, and just pull up the space.
Yeah, perfect. Next question is about implementation. So I know, Sarah, you talked about it a little bit. I think a question on a lot of people's mind again is, you know, how do we get some people who may not be totally tech savvy to pick this up and use it? But you know, certainly from my experience, I did find a few people who just flat refused to use Touchplan when I was implementing Touchplan. They just said, no, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, my answer to that is, hey, that's fine. It's so easy that I can manage your schedule in Touchplan and mine and everyone else's. I can just pick that up. Fine. You know, here's where you need to be today. You know, go forth and prosper. But do you have any more, maybe some more details or an anecdote on a time that you've had to kind of bring someone along and get them to use one of these two?
Yeah, I do. So I always have to manage it with our PMs of, okay, is this person going to add how much value are they adding to the project? What type of trade partner are they? Are they a risk reward? Or are they a hard bid where we have it in their contract for how much time they'll submit? So we always have to weigh it. I'm thinking specifically of a spray on fireproofing contractor who's good to work with, but they had limited time on their hands. So we got together with the PM in charge of it and said, look, is it going to be more of an effort for you to train them, continuously update with them, or is it more value for you to just have a conversation with them and have it updated on the screen? So it's each of those individuals that you do have to treat like we're all snowflakes here, individual snowflakes. So but overall, like the big picture, that was a single one-off. I always end up kicking myself when I don't put in the time to train somebody. Like it always comes back to bite me in the butt. When I say, oh, I'll just take care of it this time, or the PM will just take care of it for this one trade, because I'll always, somehow, some way, a few weeks later, we'll get into a meeting and somebody may say, well, I didn't update this, or this isn't perfect, or they end up needing more work than it would have been. So my biggest advice is train them. Touchplan offers multiple trainings. If they can use a plan view and move around on an iPad, they can figure out OpenSpace, or to also run around and use that tool as well. And I really do appreciate my boss, my senior superintendent, who always reminds me in the background, Sarah, make sure that they're updating their tasks, or why don't they update their tasks? Because it is hard to not just move it yourself, because it is an easy platform. So if you have the opportunity, always first check in with yourself, see if you can take that 15 minutes to train them, and then check in 5 minutes before the meeting and say, hey, Eric, have you updated your activities? Just make sure that they've done it themselves, because it will add so much more value for you and the team in the long run to have that reliable commitment from them.
And being consistent with that, not necessarily being overbearing with it, but just being consistent in that expectation, establishing an expectation early and continuously expecting, you're making it clear what you expect. I totally agree.
And that's where it worked out really well when we first started Touchplan. Was Corrie set up the training, everybody had to learn it. We had a fake poll plan on creating a barbecue, and then we started using it the next day. And we had that rigor of having the virtual meeting to start off, and then from there, our biggest challenge right now is really, we're just focused on making sure we're getting this out to the field as well, and showing it and checking in day by day.
Perfect. Yeah, Corrie, anything else to add there?
No, you guys nailed it. I would just be repeating.
Perfect. Yeah, great. So next question on Jeff, you're chiming in about OpenSpace. Talk particularly about Touchplan there. Touchplan's got its own flavor of scheduling, collaboration. There's quite a few button clicks with us, simple as we are. But with OpenSpace, have you had implementation issues?
There's always, in looking back at when I was still working in the field, there is always resistance initially. But I think the best way to actually get people to use it is just to show them, one, how easy it is, and then two, that doesn't take any extra time to do, and then three, really actually show them how it solves their problem. So if they're just seeing this as like an extra task that they have to do, then they're probably not going to want to pick it up. Everyone in the field is super busy. So if you could actually say, okay, yeah, I did this capture. You brought this issue to me with no image in the field. I looked it up in OpenSpace. I found this image of the problem that you were talking about. I turned it into an RFI, and now we'll get that RFI response back that much sooner. So if you could actually show someone like the value in it and show that it's really easy and it doesn't take any additional time, I think that's a better way to kind of get people to go along with it.
Yeah, so they go from, they'll actually come up to you with the iPad, the image of the place that they're talking about, and say, right here, this is what I need addressed, instead of coming to you with like an emotionally driven conversation where they're talking with their hands and just
right.
injecting ambiguity. So I love that. Okay, next question from Muslim. How do we solve the challenges regarding long-term and short-term planning alignment? I think this is a great question. I think both Touchplan and OpenSpace help with that. And by challenges, I assume you mean planning one thing in the field and making sure that it's aligned with your master CPM schedule. Just really quickly from the Touchplan perspective, we have the ability to align your milestones in Touchplan with milestones in P6. So that's a file-based API where we import our milestones into a CSV file and then upload into P6, where you can see Touchplan milestones and P6 milestones side by side to make sure that what you're planning in the field actually aligns with what you have in your CPM. So that's a Touchplan solution to that. Jeff, maybe I'll just open it up to the rest of the panel, how you work on that problem.
I was just going to say, so with OpenSpace, we don't have any integration with like a schedule software or program, but I will say that the thing that we do provide is a visual. So while you are planning any challenges that come up, you can just use basically OpenSpace as your visual. If there is a way where OpenSpace can provide value with a schedule, maybe in smaller chunks, that's something that probably we would look into. But as of right now, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, perfect. Corrie, Sarah, any tricks of the trade?
Yeah, using Touchplan to talk up to P6, yeah, that works for having the CSV file. For talking down, how we handle it for the master schedule, milestones, being able to communicate to the rest of the plan. How we're handling it on one project is by having little separate milestone activities or milestone plans. Like those are actually the yellow ones you see on the other side of the screen on the left-hand side. But we have those in the plan scattered about so that people can actually see, okay, are we tracking to the milestone? And then we also have a master schedule swim lane being used in Touchplan that we update on a monthly basis with our master schedule. So as soon as that gets published, we update all those milestones so that we can look and say, okay, are we tracking to the big picture? And Corrie, I think that was one of your feedbacks for how we're going to improve on the next project. What was that?
Yeah, we didn't. I don't know why we didn't think about it sooner, but when you're always going between two softwares, and it was before Touchplan had the ability to bring in the milestones. We're like, okay, we need to integrate this. So we just went ahead and added a swim lane and input all the tasks from the P6 schedule in the very top, and then tied that to the end dates of all the actual Touchplan tasks that were happening in the field, so we could see if we were slipping in the schedule on an activity or not very clearly. It was extremely beneficial.
Yeah, perfect. Let me go to next one from Carolyn. How long does it take for OpenSpace to process images from the field?
Okay, so I'll answer this based off of the last time that I used it in the field for my last project. So at my last project, a typical floor plate would be, let's say, about 250,000 square feet, so it's pretty large. And to do an overall walk of that area, it took me about, say, 30 to 45 minutes. Again, if it's a smaller floor plate, then you could probably do it in like 5, 10, 15 minutes. And that's just the capture, that's just the actual time for capturing. If you were to look at processing time, once you're done with your walk and you're uploading it back to OpenSpace, the very first time it should take only a few hours. I think what I experienced was maybe like 4 to 6 hours for the very first capture. But once you continually capture that area or that floor week by week, the OpenSpace vision engine gets faster and faster at processing it. So I think eventually, I was seeing my captures come back within 30 minutes after uploading. So it went from like 4 to 6 hours, and now since it's recognizing more of the area, it spits it back to me like quicker, probably around 30 minutes once it's at that point.
Awesome, thanks. What's in your Corrie and Sarah? You said 3 times a week. Is that your cadence for walking the job and using OpenSpace?
Yeah, for both, yeah, 3 times a week, and then the owner is actually walking 2 additional days a week, so we're doing it 5 times.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. So very, very real-time data around which to plan and communicate. That's fantastic. Next question. So does the ability exist to achieve the information together or separately? Touchplan to OpenSpace for future reference. So, and that's from Lauren. So Lauren, I think what you're asking is, do we have the ability to exchange data back and forth? Right now, the short answer to that is no. However, as you know, as we went through this use case with Sarah and Corrie, you heard they both had really great ideas for how we could use both Touchplan and OpenSpace to seamlessly integrate and act almost as one application, as a single application, similar to how a lot of these other apps work into Procore, into another platform type software. So not right now, but we're certainly exploring those ideas. We're looking for more project teams to go out, talk to, get an understanding of how they do things, and compile some more data so we can do a really effective and really beneficial integration. But Sarah and Corrie, you got really great ideas, things I hadn't even thought of to help both Touchplan and OpenSpace integrate to ultimately help you and help the job. So great question. Thanks for that. It looks like we're about out of questions. I'll go ahead and stand by for a few more minutes. If anyone wants to go ahead and populate anything else into the browser, we'll stand by here for another 30 seconds or so. We'll jump off. I don't see if nothing else is heard. So great, but
nice. I do want to say a thank you to Touchplan and for hosting this, and also to OpenSpace as well. This has been a really good experience working with y'all, and just want to say thank you, and looking forward to seeing more projects do Last Planner.
Agreed. Thank you guys so much.
Same here. Jeff, it was a lot of fun. I think getting to take a scientific approach to this and see another project team, not being the one in the room, to see another project team work was really neat.
Right.
You guys are phenomenal. I was blown away by how well you ran your job, how well you worked with your trades, and just your general disciplined approach to, one, leadership first and foremost, but two, leveraging technology to help you do that.
Yeah, and I'll just add on, we really do rely on our customers to give us the right feedback so we could, actually build stuff that people will end up using in the field. So yeah, I thank you both, Corrie and Sarah, for just giving that input and really willing to give it a try, because it really does help us improve both products. So.
Yeah, perfect. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out. I've got one question from Thon. I'll talk to you offline about that, a very specific Touchplan question. But I want to thank everyone for participating, and looking forward to the exciting things that Sarah and Corrie are doing at Boldt. I know Boldt is on the leading edge of innovation in the construction industry right now, and we're all excited about the things you'll be able to accomplish going forward. So thanks again. Thanks to everyone in the audience for joining. I will see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.